Hey, Harold, how are you?
Hello, everybody.
Now,
Okay, we're on the Mishnah on the bottom of Peiches Amud Beis, 88. It says, V'neder almana ugrusha, the neder of a widow or a divorcee, yakum aleha. Now, what does that mean, Ketza? Omra areini nazira lachar shloshim yom. A woman who is a divorcee or a widow says, I'm going to be a nazir after 30 days. And then she gets married 20 days later. Right? The neder is not going to start until 30 days. But when she made the neder, she was not married. So Eina Yachol Lahafer, her new husband cannot make for it. However, Nadra v'hi b'rshus habal, if she made such a neder, I'm going to be a nazira in 30 days, and she's married at that time, mefer law, that he can annul. Kate said, that means the husband heard the neder and annulled it. And then he died 20 days later. And then the neder was supposed to start in 30 days. Well, maybe we should say, since he's not around anymore, the annulment that he did doesn't work. No, I raise a mufer. The annulment worked because since she was married at the time she made the neder, he has the right to annul it. Nadra bo bayom, a woman at 8 o'clock in the morning makes a neder. And at 9 o'clock, Nizgar Shabobayom gets a divorce. And then he remarries her at noon. The new, it means if he wasn't made for it while they were still married, the divorce and the new marriage prevents him from being able to make for prior Nador. If she's an independent woman, even for 1 minute, he cannot annul it. A widow or a divorcee says, when I remarry, I will become a nazir. Venices. So can the new husband annul it? Rabbi Shmuel Omer Yafir. Rabbi Kiva Omer lo Yafir. V'simona Yelali. The mnemonic to remember is initially it's Yafir lo Yafir, and the next case is lo Yafir Yafir. What's the next case? Eishes Ish. Sha'am Harein Nazir l'chashes Garish. A married woman says, I will become a nazir if I get a divorce in his garsha. Well, Rabbi Shmuel Omer lo Yafir. The husband cannot be mefer. Rabbi Kiva Omer Yafir. Rabbi Kiva says he can be made for such a neder. Rabbi Shmuel Hareyu Omer v'neder almana grusha ad she neder b'shas almanos v'greirushin. If the neder starts at the time of her widowhood or divorcee, that's what is koiveya, whether the neder has a chalois or not, and whether he can be made for it. Rabbi Kiva Savar no Hareyu Omer Kol Asher Asral Nafsha Yakum Aleha Ad Sheyeh Isurei Neder B'Shas Amanos. The prohibition has to start when she's in widowhood. And Amar Rav Chizda Masnis Rabbi Kiva, our mission is Rabbi Kiva. However, Rabbi Amar Filu Tem Rabbi Shmuel Maslis and Taya Nafsha Biyomi. She said a specific day, 30 days. But Baraisa, Taya Nafsha Benisuin. In the Baraisa that we quoted, it was when I got married, when I got divorced, without a specific day. So therefore, Shalmu Yomi Velon is Garsha. If the 30 days go by and she didn't get divorced, or Shalmu Yomi Velon is Snabspa, or the 30 days go by and she doesn't get married, so there's really no kasher between the Nisuin and Ben Neder. So Rabbi Shmuel will be moide there, that we go after the time that she accepted upon herself. Zeh klal. Diktani gabinara mayrosa. We said if she's out of the reshus of the ball even for 1 minute, he can't be made for it anymore. Well, we learned that before by the case of Nara mayrosa. So the Gemara answers, what do we need it for? Lisui halacha avim shluchei abal. We already learned that by Nara mayrosa, that if the father went with the daughter, with the shluchim that the Baal sent, or the shliach of the father went with the Baal, and since the father never left the reshus of the daughter, the din is avihu ba'ila b'fir nedara. So ze'aklal diktani gabi elo anadorim in our Mishnah is l'sui masar av l'shluch habal shmasar shluch av l'shluch habal. If the father gave it over already to the shliach, so he's out of the picture. So there, even though the father didn't go along, ain't a baal mefer b'koidmin. The baal doesn't have the right to be made for nedarim that were prior to marriage, even though the father didn't go along. Mishnah. Teisha naris nidreim kayomi. There are 9 examples where if a nara makes a neder, nobody can annul them. So if she was a boigeres, if she's not a nara anymore, and her father has died, or nara ubagra, she was 12 and she became 12 and a half, and she's the yisoma when she made the neder. Nara shaloi bagra v'hi soima. A nara who lost her father and makes a neder. Well, there's nobody to be made for. Boigeres umesavia. A boigeres whose father died. Nara boigeres umesavia. A nara who made a neder and became a boigeres, and then the father died. Or nara shaloi bagra umesavia. A nara who didn't become a boigeres and the father died. Naru made a neder, umesavia, umeshavia bogra. Then after father died, she became a bogeres. Or if she made a neder as a bogeres, vavia kayim. A father only has the right to be made for nedarim when she's a nara, not when a bogeres. Or even if she was a nara but became a bogeres, and even though the father's alive, but he never annulled it. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Afamesi Bito Aktana. A father's allowed to marry off his minor daughter, like if she's 10 or 11. And then she becomes a widow. She doesn't go back to her father's house. On his garsha. The Chazra Etzon came back to the father, and she's still a nara. He cannot be mefer. Amri Rav, Div Rabbi Yehuda. You don't need this detail. You can say general rule. Sholosh naros nidreim kayomi. A bogeres, right? A girl above 12 and a half. V'yisoma, a girl that loses her father. Or the case where the father married her off and then her husband died or divorced her. That's called Yisoma b'chaya av. So she's like a Yisoma that the father doesn't have a rishus there. So those are important dinim to remember. Mishnah.
Hold on a second. The Yisoima, at what age are we talking about?
No, Yisoma b'chayav. Let's say he marries her off when she's 10 years old.
Understand.
And then she becomes a widow, her husband dies or divorces her. So you might think she goes back to her father's house and he has the right. No. Once she was out of his rishus for 1 minute through a marriage, even as a katana, she's considered a Yesoima b'chayav. We call her an orphan while the father's still alive.
But what happens if she's so young, she's 10, but she doesn't know the halachas? She doesn't know anything about making a neder, and she makes this neder, and she doesn't know.
So we're going to learn later. We didn't go into it. It's interesting in Masechta Nedarim. There's something called mufla hasamach li'ish. A 12-year-old boy, within the year between 12 and 13, if he makes Nedarim, he's considered a mufla hasamach li'ish. We assume that he understands what he's saying in his Nedarim Makayim. Prior to that, no. So in a girl, we're talking about a mufla samach liisha, someone between an 11 and 12. We're there by Nedarim, it's an exception. Normally, I agree with you that a child doesn't have any das and everything, but we must be dealing with mufla samach liish, where her Nedarim are accepted. And therefore, since there was nobody who had the power to annul, this is an example of a type of nara or type of girl who makes an Nedarim and you can't annul it. Mishnah. Amra, a wife says to her husband, Koinim she'eni nena la'abu lavicha. I'm not going to have a hana from my father, your father. Im oisa ani alpicha. If I benefit from you. Oh, she'eni nenis lecha, I won't benefit from you. Im osa ani alpi ava abav alpi avicha. Or if I do some work on behalf of my father, your father. So hareze yofer. So these are Nedarim that he has the power to be mefer. It's the Ran says it's lo zuat. Not only that case in the Reisha, but afzu. Even in the second case, says the Gemara Tanya. She'eni nenes la'abu lavicha. I'm not going to benefit from my father, your father. If I am going to benefit from you, Rav Nasram lo yofer. She's chayiv because of the wedding. She still has to provide food for her husband based on the ksuba. So he doesn't have the right to annul something where there's no chalois of the neder, and there's no chalois here. He still has the right to be mefer. Like the case of netula ani min Yehudim, I'm not going to have relations with other Jews im mishamashtacha if I have relations with you. Because he'll have relations with her husband, and she'll be prevented from other Jews even after a divorce. However, Chachamim Raman Yofer, because he has the right to be made for it, like we had before, even though now it's Asr Beino LeBeino, she can have relations and there'll be prohibitions afterwards. Ahu Gavra the Itzra and the Yasa the Alma Alei. There was a man who took a neder that he's not going to benefit from the world. When? In Nosevitza, if he marries a certain woman, Kilotanina Hilchasa. If he marries a woman when he's not a Talmid Chacham, he made this neder to sort of be mezares him to become a Talmid Chacham. Royit begapa the tov lavlo imsa lemisna. He ran up and down a ladder with a rope. He was not able to learn how to learn. He tried with his whole heart, and he wasn't able to learn. Ravuna tricked him, and married and did a chuppah v'kiddushin for him. Now, he had made a neder that if he got married and it wasn't a Talmid Chacham, he wouldn't benefit from the world. Well, what kind of clothes could he wear? He couldn't wear any clothes that's benefiting from the world. So Ravacha threw him in a pit of mud so he wouldn't be naked. Va'asil kamed Rav Chisda. And they came to Rav Chisda to be matter the neder. And with this, we will learn tomorrow how they got out of this neder. So tomorrow will be 8:00. And we will start the Tzur Bashir at 8:00 tonight. So call back in everybody in 9 minutes.
Go ahead.
And we'll be ready to start. See everybody in 10 minutes.
Go ahead.